can you tell us about your daughter Taylor?
Taylor was 19 years old, college student at Sierra College in Rockland. She was the vice president of the Black Student Union at Sierra College. She was full of life, outgoing, funny, talented, extremely wise beyond her years. She was a young leader in her community. She was a positive influence on her peers. And she was a light in every room that she walked into. And she was taken from me way too soon.
And what kind of relationship did you and Taylor have?
Taylor and I are very extremely close. I had Taylor when I was 18 years old, and although I had the support of my family and my own village, godparents and such, but I raised her on my own. So it's always been just me and her. Um, I don't know life without her. She didn't know life without me. She was my everything. She,
So I know we talked late last week, and you told me about some of the events leading up to Taylor's unfortunate death. Could you tell me what was running through your head when your niece knocked on your door and told you that Taylor was no longer with us?
um, my first thought was no, she's not at a hotel because she's with her friend. I'm like, you're wrong. I was under the impression that she had spent the night with one of her best friends. So when she said that she was at a hotel, I initially immediately thought that she was wrong because I thought she was somewhere else. So when she said what she said, I was just like, wait, stop, hold on. That's not true. And then I started to panic from that point. Um, and I started making phone calls. My first phone call was to Taylor, went straight to her voicemail. Um, but my brain was racing so fast I couldn't think to get to the friend's number that she was with. So I called her best friend and got her to send me the number, but she just like came to me immediately right away, as opposed to just sending me the number. So I was frantic. I called the police. They showed up and said that they had no information and that it was a rumor.
And do you know why they referred to it as a rumor?
I I don't know, because within less than 5 minutes of the officer showing up, my daughter's best friend and her grandmother showed up. I was in the process of trying to call the hotel, but I couldn't get the lady on the phone to tell me anything. She was saying the manager would have to call me back. So um, I didn't get to talk to the manager, so I called the hotel back and just said, well, is the police there? And she said yes. And so I said, okay. Hung up, and we just went straight to the hotel. Went to the hotel. I explained to the first officer that I saw there that I'm Taylor's mother and that I was told that my daughter was dead at this hotel. And she said the same thing that the officer that came to my house said, that at this point, that is all a rumor. So I don't know what was in their mindsets, telling me that it was a rumor. I don't know why the officer didn't have any information when there was all these police officers at the hotel already.
Hmm.
So he should have had some information.
So at what point did they tell you that it was Taylor, that they suspected it was Taylor who was found dead in the hotel?
That was hours after we were up there. We were up there for hours. I was there when the police tape was drawn across the parking lot. They had us go behind the yellow tape. They sent uh, not a coroner, a chaplain out to speak with us and to try to console us. And I'm like, why are you sending me a chaplain and you're telling me at the same breath that this is a rumor?
Hmm.
Why are you telling me this is a rumor when you're drawing police tape across the parking lot? I asked to go into. If you don't know it's her, let me go and see if it's her. I'm her mama. I can tell you if it's her. I was denied that. They would not let me go inside the hotel. So it was hours. We were out there for hours, and then the detective insisted on taking me to the police station. I asked him to tell me whatever it is he needed to tell me then, and he wouldn't. He said, we have to go to the station. We go to the station for him to tell me that they think that it is her according to her picture, her driver's license photo. But she hadn't been identified officially at that point. Um, so that's when I was first told that it could possibly be her when they took me to the station. I think it was around 4 that afternoon, something like that.
And what was your reaction when they finally told you that?
Officially or non-officially?
Officially that.
We had left the hotel and went back. I was told that the coroner was there. I received a call from my niece that the coroner was there, so we all went back. And when we got there, the coroner was leaving, and they stopped, and he told me that he had identified my daughter by her fingerprint, and that it was in fact her. Um, my mind goes blank a little because I remember being on the ground. I remember being put in the car. Then I remember being in the hospital room. I remember my mom grabbing my face and begging me just to say yes, because if I didn't say yes, then they were gonna keep me on a psychiatric hold. So she said, I just need you to say yes so that I can take you home. So I said yes. I don't remember exactly what the doctor did. I remember a flashlight maybe in my eyes, and I remember going outside of the hospital because there was a lot of police. It was a different um, situation going on with the police, so we had to be escorted out of the parking lot. I remember that. Um, I remember the coroner calling me back that evening, telling me that I had to have paperwork signed by my daughter's father, who was incarcerated at the time, so that her body could be released from his office to the funeral home.
And so what has life been like for you since that day that you found
Um, for the most part, numb, lost, confused, empty, just broken. My heart is in heaven with my daughter. I'm alive, I'm here in the flesh, but I'm not here. I don't know how to, I don't know how to live without her. I don't know what I'm supposed to do without her. Life doesn't go on for me. So I just take it day by day, sometimes second by second, sometimes minute by minute, day by day, just doing the best I can for her, because I know she wouldn't want me not to fight for her. So I'm trying to stay strong for her, for her, for Taylor.
I'm so sorry that you're going through this. I'm so sorry that Taylor lost her life so young. It sounds like she has such a bright future ahead of her.
She did have an extremely bright future. Her plans were to finish college and become very successful and come back and save her family that couldn't save themselves. That was her plan. Those was one of the last things she said to me. That she had to save her family. Like it was her job to do that. That's how she felt. She felt like it was on her.
Have you, do you, have you received any updates from the Sacramento Police Department or the coroner's office about what happened to Taylor that night?
After I made a post on June 28th, it marked the 4th month that she had been gone, and I still didn't have any answers. Hadn't spoke to anyone since April. The Sacramento Police Department and the coroner's office both included. When I did speak to the detective Putman in April, it was not him calling me to give me an update. He was returning my calls. I like to be very clear about that. Um, After I made the post, my niece and Taylor's friends, with two of my nieces, Cherie and Tianjane, and Taylor's friends, Trinity and Imara, and more than that, they took my post and made it go viral. Um, Somehow, Trey Songs reposted it, then Amanda Seals, and then all of a sudden I started getting all of these messages and phone calls bombarded, um, with people wanting to talk to me all of a sudden, wanting to do interviews with me. Um, and I still hadn't had any updates from the police department or the coroner's office until July 2nd. They called my phone. I got 2 voicemails from the detective that's now on her case, and I got a phone call with the voicemail from the coroners, both on July 2nd, after my post went viral, after people started bombarding them with phone calls and emails and messages regarding my daughter's death investigation. When I did speak to someone, it was the next day because the numbers that was left on my voicemail for the detective, I wasn't able to get through. A lady, was helping. She made sure that I got a call on the 3rd, um, and I got an update that day from the detective.
And you said
Um,
it's a new detective now.
yes, that's when I was notified that the initial detective was on baby leave and that he was now on the case.
Did he provide you with any update?
He kind of followed up with what the coroner's office said, which was the coroner's office told me that my daughter's case is being investigated as a rule out homicide, which was news to me. I was not informed of that. So my reaction was very emotional because that was the first of me hearing that. I was told in April um, that most likely this was an accident, and that in his opinion, based on his over 20 years of experience, that he did not see the coroner ruling this other than an accident. So then fast forward to July when you tell me that my daughter's death investigation is now, it has all this time has been investigated as a homicide, not ruled as a homicide, but investigated as a homicide based on the suspicions, circumstances surrounding her death. That was like somebody kicked me in my gut. Because why didn't you tell me this in the beginning? I honestly feel like they just didn't care. They didn't make my daughter a priority. They didn't care enough to make her a priority. She didn't become important to them, or it seemed to be of importance to them until after all of this viral social media stuff happened. Um, when I spoke to the detective on the 2nd, he said that the criminal side of the investigation is at a standstill until they get the autopsy report. Um, I was told that they asked for it to be expedited. So at this point, I guess they're in the process of trying to expedite the results. Um,
But they still didn't give you a timeline or a date for when it would be completed.
no, I don't have a date or a timeline. The last words was we're asking them to expedite it. When I talked to the detective this morning, he said that they're working on it as fast as they can, and hopefully we'll have some results shortly. But he didn't give me an exact time frame, no, or date, no.
So, hearing that your daughter's death has been investigated or is being investigated as they would investigate a homicide,
hmm
what came to your mind when you heard that?
I never believed it was an accident. I never believed it was an accident. So I was hoping that it was an accident. No mother wants their child's death to be because of a murder. So I was hoping that he was right. But when he said that it was being investigated as a homicide, I wasn't surprised because I didn't believe that it was an accident in the first place, especially after I saw my daughter's face in the casket the day of her wake, the day before her funeral is when I saw her because I didn't want to go to the funeral home 3 times and see her like that. So I waited to the day of the wake, and I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Nobody told me my daughter's face was bruised up. Nobody told me her arms were so bruised that we had to cover them. Nobody told me that her lips were so bruised and cracked up that even through the darkest shade lipstick they could put on her, you could still see. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me my daughter had a gash on her forehead right here between the bridge of her nose and her eyes. Nobody told me any of that. So I wasn't prepared for that. So once I saw that, I knew then that this could not have been an accident. What I don't understand is how you are a detective of over 25 years of experience and you don't see that. How do you not see what I see? With just a little bit of information that I've gathered, I would not believe in for a second that this was an accident. So how is it that people who are experienced, who get paid to solve crimes such as this, how do you not see that initially? So that means because you chose not to see that initially, the person who last saw my daughter alive is free right now. Yeah, this is a homicide investigation. Why is there not a prime suspect when you know who she was with the last time she was alive? Why was no arrest made? Why was there no even an interrogation done? I was told that he was interviewed in front of hotel staff and released. By the time they took me to the station the day of, around 4 o'clock that afternoon, they had already been interviewed and released. So clearly he wasn't interrogated. Interrogation lasts for hours. So which is it? Are you treating this as a homicide or are you not treating this as a homicide? Because the criminal side of this investigation, to me, I don't see how it's been investigated as a homicide when no arrests were made. When my daughter was last seen by a 27-year-old being with a 27-year-old man and she was 19 years old, that she had met on Instagram and they were on a first date. She goes on a first date with this man who was aggressively pursuing her, and she doesn't come home, and he's not arrested. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm a civilian. I'm not a detective. I'm not a police officer. But that doesn't make sense to me. Or anybody else that I've talked to. None of my family can make sense of this. None of her friends can make sense of this. And the last thing I want is for any other mother in this world to ever have to go through what I'm going through. I belong to a club now that nobody wants to join. I don't. There's no invites to this club. And at the end of the day, I want the truth. And everything inside of me telling me this is not an accident.
So what do you want to see happen? You say
I
you want
want
the
the
truth.
truth. I want the detectives to give it. I want them to look at this case like it could have been their daughter. And if the detectives that are on this case don't care, then give it to somebody who does. Give it to somebody who will go out in the field and do the work to find out what happened to her and not sit on your and be at a standstill until you get autopsy reports. Because there's so much other work that could be done, to be done, besides waiting on an autopsy report. And I want everything that can be done to be done because I want the truth. If it was an accident, then prove it to me. Prove it to me. But I'm not willing to accept that I may never know. That's not an option. It's not an option. Regardless of what that detective said, that is not an option. I will find out what happened to my daughter. And everybody involved will be held accountable. That is what I want. That is what I want. From the negligence from the beginning to the end. Any and everybody responsible, I want them held accountable. Period. Period. That's what I want.